It's time for another Dice Tower review with Tim Jennette.
Hey everyone, Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple here, and in this video we're taking a look at Panic on Wall Street by Marabunta Games, or just Marabunta. It's designed by Brighton Ronnie in 2011, and it's for 3 to 11 players, plays in about 30 to 45 minutes probably, depending on the number of players you have. You've got two teams. You've got the investors that are investing in shares that the managers are selling. These shares fluctuate in price and stuff throughout the game, and whoever has the most money on each team wins. So it's got two winners. So let's take a look at the game. I'll show you how it plays, and we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think. So in Panic on Wall Street, you have investors and you have managers. You split up into two teams. The odd number player goes to the investors, so you're always going to have more investors or you're going to have an equal amount. So 7 players, you got 4 investors, 3 managers. You want to try to sit on opposite sides of the table, so all the managers are on one side of the table, all the investors on the other side of the table. Each player is going to get $120,000 of paper money. They're going to get, for the investors, you're going to get a stack of tokens of your color, or whatever color you choose. There's 6 different ones because you can have 6 different investors. Sorry. The managers are going to get random company tiles from this giant stack of company tiles. There are 4 different colors to match the different companies available, and it doesn't matter if you get the same color or not. But the 2X tiles, such as this one, go back in and shuffled, and you don't start with those. But we'll go into those more later, and you're pretty much ready to begin. The first phase, which is conveniently listed on this board here, is negotiation. Let's push this out of the way for now. You have 2 minutes to make a deal, freestyle. There are no turns. You're going to flip this timer over. We choose to use an app on the phone just because we can hear it stop. Everybody's screaming a lot, so this doesn't make any noise when it's done. So somebody has to either be watching this. It's easier to hear an app. Even though this is by far the best timer I've seen in a game. It's really cool. Anyway, so we're going to just mock up 2 of the managers here. Let's say we had a player, one manager had those 3, and another manager had these 3. You flip over the timer or start the timer, however you want to do it, and then you're ready to begin. Everybody just starts yelling. Say Gray comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to buy this green tile, and I'm going to buy it for 10. If that manager agrees, he's going to write down 10 on this board with a dry erase marker, and he's going to put his token there. At any point, the gray player can drop out and take it back. Maybe he found better deals elsewhere or thinks he ended up overpaying and not as confident. The reason is because on that board over here, the first board I showed you, this is the stock market basically. Each company share is going to fluctuate, but they all start at 30. So you got, the idea, once you bid on this, those are going to fluctuate and you might make around $30 for the blues or whatever. So you want to decide, well, I'm going to buy it. The investors want to invest in it for as little as possible, but the managers want to sell that share for as much as possible. So you come to negotiations. Later on, another player can say, you know what, he's got it for 10, I'm going to pay you 15. If they agree, they kick him out, and they're going to put 15 on the board instead. This is going to happen until all the boards end up having a price, which we're just going to make up at random here and throw some tokens on there. The last thing, while we're going over this, is you can also close a deal. When you close a deal, it works like this. Well, you know what? He's paying you 15, but I'll give you 20 if you close it. If that manager decides to close it, you flip this out, you put the new price down, and for the remainder of this 2 minutes, that token cannot be removed by anybody. You can't renegotiate with another player, make it higher, and the gray player can't take his token back and back out of that buy. Once that is finished, we're going to go back to this board here, and we're going to roll a die for each one of these companies. The companies have a low risk. The blue is low risk. It goes between 20 and 40 in very quick, low increments. So it jumps. It takes 2 spaces to go up or down. The green is a little bit worse, where it goes to 0 to 60, -10 to 60. Red being the farthest, the greatest range of -20 to 70. On top of that, these dice also fluctuate. The blue has a -1, 0, and a +1. The red has a -7 and a +7. Everything in between, and the yellow and green are kind of in between all that. Anyway, this is the investor income phase where you roll these dice, you put them next to each tile here, or I'm sorry, each color for companies, and then you're going to adjust the shares according to these dice. So red goes down by 2, that's bad for him, whoever bid on that red share. Yellow goes up by 3, green stays the same, and this goes up by 1. Now it's time for investors to collect their money. No matter what they bid on the card, you're going to collect money based on what these shares show. So the green player up here is going to receive, or is going to have to pay the bank -$10. Blue's going to have, he'll get 30 from a blue, and he'll also get 30 from this green. And then over here you've got, you know, another 30 for the blue player, another 30 for the red player, and then another 60 for this yellow. Once that is finished, we go on to the manager's income, and where they'll collect money from the players who invested in them based on the number they put out here. So even though the blue player got $60 from yellow, he has to pay that manager $20 now. Red will have to pay 10 to this manager, and blue will have to pay 10 to this manager, and so on and so forth. Once that is finished, we go on to the manager costs. What that means is each manager is going to have to pay $10 for each tile they have, or $10,000 for each tile they have to the bank. If they can't afford it, they sell a company at a time and getting $5,000 per company tile until they can pay it off. If you can't ever pay it off, you're basically eliminated from the game, which tends to not happen as much as you would think. But once that's finished, we go on to the manager auction, in which this giant stack of manager cards, or company cards, you're going to draw out double the number of managers, so in this case 2 minus 1, so 3. And then one of the investors is going to flip it over and have an open auction. He's going to say, all right, go ahead, and one of the managers will say, I'll buy it for 10, 15, 20. And I guess you can do different types of auctions. We just do a live auction and then have the manager or the investor say, you know, going once, going twice, sold. That money actually goes into the bank, however, and they put this tile in their arsenal of tiles, and then so on and so forth. The rest are sold. Once that is done, that is pretty much the end of a month. At the end of the month, you just start over with another round phase in which you play 2 minutes to renegotiate. These tiles here, or the bid tokens, stay there but flip back over to the non-closed side, and then you begin that new auction. You play 5 rounds. At the end of the 5th round, whatever manager has the most money will win, and whatever investor has the most money will win. So there's technically 2 winners, 1 on each team. So you're really fighting against your team, the people on your same side. So the managers are fighting against each other, but they're really like the investors because they're making money. The last thing are these double tiles. These double tiles, when somebody bids, say somebody bid 15 on this, all that means is they're going to receive double the payout of the share board. Let's get this back out. Let's just say this guy had good fortune and it was here. He would receive $80,000, but still only pay $15,000 to the player, the manager. So this doesn't double the actual bid on here, but usually what that'll happen is this number on here will go really high because it's worth a whole lot more. Anyway, whoever has the most money on each team is the winner. One final thing I forgot to add: if an investor cannot pay the amount to the manager can basically hold him at ransom. He can either tell him, okay, you're eliminated from the game, which usually isn't in the interest of the manager because that's one less investor to invest in his company stocks, or he can make a verbal agreement with that investor and say, you know what, next round, Red, you need to bid on all 3 of my things and not take them back. However, he doesn't really have to follow that, but again, it's one of those things. Do I kick the investor out? Because it's really only beneficial for the manager to have another investor at his arsenal. But let's see. Let's take a look at my thoughts. And there you go. That's Panic on Wall Street. Hopefully this overview kind of showed you most of what the game's about. It's kind of hard to explain this type of game. Such games like Pit, where everyone's going all at the same time. It's just chaos. You have to experience it to really see how the game actually works. So hopefully I did all right on the overview, but What do I think about this game? This is great. This is quickly becoming my go-to party game for large groups. I mean, obviously you've got other games that host a lot of players, but I think this does it really well, and I think you can get really thematic with it. You know, you have to be on one side of the table, and obviously table space is an issue. You know, most people's tables are probably going to have 6 to 8 players at most, so having 11 is just crazy. But you can almost set up little kiosks everywhere, almost like a Wall Street thing, and have people run over to them and jumping back and forth and be like, hey, I've got something for sale over here, I got a blue. So you can get really cool with it or whatever, but as a game, I think it's fantastic. It's light enough to where you can pretty much teach anyone. It's crazy enough to where it's going to gather all kinds of attention to it. And I just think overall it's a great game. I don't really have any complaints other than the fact that it does have a slight player elimination to it. You know, if an investor doesn't have enough to pay the manager, he can just take him out of the game. Probably not in his best interest, though, just because having more managers, like I said, can have, or more investors, has more people to bid on the stuff that you're selling. So dropping those down, now you're fighting over a couple of people. Maybe that's good. Maybe it'll drive the prices up. I don't know. It doesn't really happen that often. I think it's only happened once and we let him in. So it's a party game. You don't really want to just eliminate people. It's not a very long game, so I mean you can play it multiple times, and I think overall it's definitely a game worth checking out. I believe it is out of print, so it might be a little harder to find, but it wasn't too hard for me. I did find it at a convention, so anyway, that's Panic on Wall Street. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at timjennette@gmail.com or follow me on social media at the handle below. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.